Hey guys, it's Lev here from Lebram Gaming, back with another Bloonstown Fence 6 video. What I thought we'd do today is talk about tower buffs. Now, that's pretty broad, I know, but we can break it down into 4 parts. We'll just run through quickly the support towers that everyone knows they buff your other towers. Now, in that, we'll jump in, I'll show you. Monkeys, support. So we're talking about the Monkey Village, the Engineer Monkey, the Alchemist. Super simple. So we'll break them down real quick. We won't spend too much time on them because everyone knows they buff their other towers. Then we'll look at towers that buff other towers. So everyone knows you've got your Ninja Monkey with your Shinobi tactics. We're going to run through all of those different combinations and show you a couple buffs that you might not know about. Then, so part 3, we'll run through our heroes. So which heroes can buff some of your towers in the game, how those buffs work, how the interactions work. And then from that, at the end of this video, we'll be able to start to determine how you can create some in-game strategies for yourself so you're not relying on people like me making YouTube videos. But I will anyway. All right, let's get into it. So let's start off with those first couple. So we jump in our support, our Monkey Village. So our Monkey Village, the first thing that it does is it just says at the top here. So it doesn't say this in-game, it's just its passive ability. Hub of Monkey Industry has a number of different benefits to aid all of your monkeys. Increase range of all monkeys in its radius by 10%. Now that's a pretty big buff if you think about it. Slap that next to something like a super monkey with ultra range, you add another 10% on that. Awesome. So the first buff, this is the village buffing itself, just giving it a bigger radius. Jungle drums, increasing the attack speed of all monkeys in the radius, super good. And the rest of the top path is actually based around primary monkeys. So if you want to do a strategy around building really cheap primary monkeys, which is a great strategy, especially if you're using someone like Gwendolin for that lead popping power. Primary training, all primary monkeys in the radius get more range, pierce, projectile speed. So you're already getting 2 range buffs. So if you're popping in something like a crossbow master, that's already got an absurd range. You go a top path, Monkey Village, you start getting some crazy range, some crazy pops. Moving on, primary mentoring, all primary monkeys. So these are all the blue monkeys, remembering. They're all the primary monkeys. Get their tier 1 upgrades for free, increased range again, and a reduced ability cooldown. Now, yes, it's expensive, but we'll read it out anyway because it is extremely good if you're using a bunch of primary monkeys. Adds a ballista attack, so it can actually attack, which is also extremely strong. All primary monkeys in the radius get more popping power, ability cooldowns, and reduced further tier 1 and tier 2 upgrades for free. That's pretty cool. Now, the other buffs that our village gives out, Grow Blocker obviously stops heart balloons from regenerating, which is great. The one that everyone knows about, because I'm assuming if you've played Bloonstown Defense 6, you've used this a bunch of times. Allows all the monkeys in the radius of your village to get camo detection, super useful. Intelligence Bureau is just the radar scanner, but on steroids. So let's just say your tower can pop. You can now pop, unless you have a tack shooter, like a tack zone. You can now pop camo. You unlock the Intelligence Bureau. He can now hit leads as well. Call to Arms and Homeland Defense. Massive attack speed buffs. So you pair them with your jungle drums. So if you went a 5-2-0 Monkey Village, and then, or like a 5-0-2, and then a 2-5-0. So you have both of these maxed out. You have them with crossbow masters, so you've absolutely maxed out their range, their attack speed. They are going to hit really hard for you, especially the fact you can get 2. So Monkey Village, relatively easy. Everyone knows it, buffs all your towers. Engineer Monkey, the main thing that we're looking at in the Engineer Monkey is the overclock. If you haven't overclocked towers before, yes, it's this one not here isn't super expensive, 13,500. But the Ultra Boost is extremely good if you're going for any late game boss battles, anything late game, anything, you know, round 100 plus, looking getting an Ultra Boost. What it does is when you overclock someone, so you click on them, you click it, it overclocks them. That boosts their attack speed by about 60% for a short period of time. Ultra Boost does the exact same thing, except you actually retain some of that attack speed on the tower that you use it on, and you can stack that up to 10 times. So once again, if you had a crossbow master with these 2 5th tier villages, then you overclock him with times 10 Ultra Boost, and then use another one again times 11, that 11th one will drop off, but the attack speed you'll gain will be absolutely mental. So if you haven't used Engineer Monkeys without overclocking, I highly recommend that. And the last one, everyone should know this, and if you're not using the Alchemist, multiple Alchemists in a single game, I would highly suggest you start doing it. The damage output added onto your towers from this one tower is absolutely mental. He can buff up, it's the same as a village, anything in his range he can buff. Now it is good to note sometimes that you actually want to single him out. If you have a really high DPS tower, like a Monkey Ace, a Super Monkey, you can actually just place your Alchemist next to that tower and try and actually exclude all your other towers, so then he only feeds his potions to that one tower, increasing your pop value. So we'll run through, so larger potions doesn't do much here. It's super important. Acidic mixture dip, essentially without reading that all, it gives them lead popping power. Super good for a super early game. Berserker Brew, Special Brew gives monkeys extra damage, range, attack speed, and it lasts longer than the mixture dip. Same thing again with our strongest stimulant. Extra strong Berserker Brew has even more power effect on the target, lasts even longer. That's pretty awesome. Now, I know I keep harping on this. Imagine everything that we've just run through with our crossbow masters. You pop in an Alchemist next to those guys, more damage, more range. I mean, at this point, your crossbow master's hitting almost the whole map. Awesome DPS. And this final upgrade, awesome. Perma Brew. All it does is, instead of having your Alchemist here having to throw potions to your other towers to buff them up over and over, once she buffs them with the Perma Brew, it's done. They have the buffs permanently for the rest of the game. Now, hot tip, if you haven't done this before with an Alchemist Perma Brew, you go to support Chinook, and then you fly him around the map. You just keep dropping him. He buffs all your towers, and eventually your whole map has the Perma Brew potion, and it costs you like, I don't know, like 14 grand to fly him around. Awesome little strategy there. Stronger Acid, we're not going to look at. Perishing Potions is pretty important. Attack potions deal more damage to Moab class balloons. Strips fortified off smaller balloons, also strengthens brews and stimulants. So a lot of the time I get perishing potions if I'm going a top path. Alchemist, it just buffs his potions. Makes sense, it makes it easy. Alrighty, so they're the three towers that most people, or most of you guys, know about already. Let's move on to just regular towers that either buff themselves or buff other towers. So let's jump into that now. So we'll start with our Dart Monkey. Super simple, and no, we're not going to talk about the Crossbow Master anymore. We're going to jump into the Super Monkey Fan Club. So the Super Monkey Fan Club ability converts up to 10 nearby Dart Monkeys, including himself, into Super Monkeys for 15 seconds. regular attack speed also increased. That's pretty cool. So if you haven't used that before, I'll jump in and I'll show you what that is real quick. Monkey Meadows, easy. We'll go sandbox. We don't need to read that. Let's just jump in and we'll build 5 of these and we'll go middle path here. Alrighty, so now our ability is finally up. You're literally in the range here. Let's just drop a couple more, give him some big range. Now when we press our ability, boom. How cool is that? You just now, for the next 15 seconds, these guys, Plasma Blast, super good buff, super cheap to be honest as well. Now, while we're on our Super Monkey fan club, let me just show you one hot tip. That's why you guys are here, right? You're here for the hot tips? I hope so. So, what I've done before, you get a monkey town, you can pretty much 3 village dart monkeys, to be honest. I've done it. I highly recommend it. It's a cool strategy. Next to our monkey commerce, all the balloons in the radius get more cash per pop. Pretty simple. Cool. This one here, increase influence radius, cash generation in radius, and gives you a free dart monkey every round. So this is what I was saying. You could have, if you're going like a primary strategy, you want to make a bunch of cash, you just go to Monkey City, then you can build your 10 free dart monkeys. Your primary mentoring, your primary expertise is getting your upgrades cheaper. Monkey commerce, it's obviously going to cheaper again. So super cheap towers, massive amounts of DPS. You have a couple crossbow masters, have your plasma monkeys in there with your fan club. I mean, it's big brain. It is straight up big brain. Alrighty, the next tower we're going to look at is our sniper. Now, not everyone knows this, so I thought it'd be a cool one to throw in. It's actually our elite sniper. He's actually the guy that's giving the buff here. The elite sniper, once you build him, not only do you actually get the grants elite targeting prior, which I covered in the last video, is awesome in itself. So once you unlock this, you go to all your other snipers, change them all to elite. But you just do that as soon as you build this tower. But it's at the end of this. Adds faster reloading to all snipers. So you have an elite defender next to this guy. So you give your elite defender elite targeting with a faster reload time. The pops on that guy, insane. You have him next to a bunch of snipers where you're maiming your Moab or you're crippling your Moab. Crazy, crazy good combo. So if you don't build your elite sniper, but you do build your other two, I would highly consider popping this guy in because your pops and your DPS get greatly buffed and he's super, super cheap. Alrighty, what do we got next? We have our submarine. So this guy's got 2 different buffs. We'll run through the top path and then we'll run through the bottom path. So the top path, you submerge your sub once you get this. Pretty simple camera detection. Most of you guys know that. What I'm actually looking at is these 2 at the end here. So submerged camo detection, everyone knows that, but nearby water-based monkeys have their cooldowns reduced by 15%. That's a pretty awesome buff. Not as awesome as the Energizer. Now, once you get the Energizer, his pops actually start to be really good. So don't be fooled by, I guess, the first 4 upgrades not doing any damage. Once you get this guy, the damage output is actually insane. Now let's read this buff. Reduce ability cooldowns everywhere on the entire map for every single one of your towers by 20%. That is like one of the biggest buffs in the game. Now, while in the radius, your heroes get XP 50% faster and Water Monkey's abilities cooldowns are halved. So like if you're doing like a water-based strategy, crazy good tower to have. You could have Brickell next to this guy, earning her XP extremely fast. Great for someone like Adora, Churchill, where their XP rates are really high. Perfect buff for those guys. Now the next one is down the bottom, only applies to subs, but not everyone knows this. Adds extra pierce and damage to all subs in its radius. So That is awesome. So if you have like 5, 6, 7 subs, advanced intel potentially, all shooting the whole map, perfect. Perfect to have this guy. You build him, buffs all of those other towers for you. Now the next one is our Buccaneer. I like this little picture here. So the Buccaneer, how does he buff other towers? Now, not everyone knows this. Yes, merchantmen, if you have your farms out, they can increase some money there. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the carrier flagship. This is a sick buff. Does extra damage, cool. Can place other monkeys on the other tech, cool. Here we go. Increases the attack speed of all border-based monkeys and monkey aces. That is sick. When we start to think about pairing a top path Buccaneer next to subs with a sub commander, like now you guys are starting to think. I can see it already. Awesome buff, carrier flagship. Let's move on to the next one. Now this one is, I'm not sure if we'll call it a buff. It's almost a self buff, but I wanted to cover it anyway. Up the top here, when we have a top path Mortar Monkey, blast, shockwave, stuns, balloon, impact, pops, balloons in water area, increases Bernie stuff damage. And that is for the rest of these here. So the bigger one, increase Bernie stuff damage, increase Bernie stuff damage. Bernie stuff is actually a bottom path upgrade you get on your Mortar Monkey. So if you're going to go a top path, the biggest one on your Mortar Monkey, it makes sense to get Bernie stuff. Alrighty, the next one is our, what are they called? A Dartling Gunner. I don't know how I forgot the name. It's been a long video. I've got an itchy knee. So the Dartling Gunner, it's a little self buff. I think it's pretty cool. Requires monkey knowledge though. It's the Plasma Accelerator. So it concentrates the power of beam energy into a single point. Now let me jump into our monkey knowledge military. It's this one here, cross the streams, where plasma or doom beams cross the track, they create a temporary plasma pool. Let me jump into a game. Let me show you that real quick, because not everyone knows this, and it actually does a crazy amount of damage. So we get our gunner, we lock him in, Plasma Accelerator. Then we'll get another one. We pop him up here. Plasma Accelerator. And see where they cross. See how it makes these pools of plasma here? They do an absurd amount of damage. So technically, I'm going to call that buffing them up. Now you can add multiple of these guys, position them a lot better than what I've done here. Like if we just sell him, right? And let's just like put this one like here. So yes, if you were using your brain correctly, you could do something like that. That would make a lot more sense. But that pool there, that crossover point, not only do these guys do an absurd amount of damage, that's why they're so expensive, but this pool does huge damage. So I'm going to call it a buff. I'm leaving it in the video. Let's move on. Now it's the main three. It's the main three monkeys that most of you guys know. And if you don't know these, you're hurting me inside. This one you might not know. This one is the Prince of Darkness buff. Reanimates even more powerful balloon servants to obliterate enemy, yada, yada, yada. It's the end part here, which is the big buff. Enhances all other necromancers. So if you had, like, I've done this and it works perfect because they have camo detection. They can pop purples. They can pop everything. You can have like 6 of these guys with a Prince of Darkness. The Prince is buffing all of your other necros. I'll get to why this strategy actually works when we jump into our heroes and look at Ezili. Then I'm going to make a game on how strong that actually is. But there it is. There's the buff on the Prince of Darkness, buffing all your other necros on the map. Now, the next one is our ninja. Everyone knows this. I'm assuming by now, if you've played BTD6, you know about shinobi tactics. You just build 20 ninjas. Technically, 23 ninjas, depending how good your placement is. You get your shinobi tactics, increases pierce and attack speed on every single ninja in that range. Now, what you have to do when you plan this strategy, you have to plan essentially the 3 ninjas in the middle are gonna be your ninjas that are gonna do your DPS. So there you're gonna be your Grandmaster Ninja, your Grand Saboteur, and your Master Bomber. They have to be in the center of all these other ninjas. But the attack speed, you can pair that with a village, you pair that with your Perma-Brute. Crazy amount of damage coming out of that. Then you build the Ascended Shadow and you pack up shop, you go home, it works perfect. Hopefully that sums up ninjas for you. They're good. If you haven't, jump on the shinobi tactics again. Crazy good. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is the last tower that I want to talk about today, and that is our Druid. Now, I've done this in a few of my videos. Once again, most people know about this, but it's the Druid, it's the bottom path Druid. It's the Druid of Wrath and the Heart of Vengeance. Now, once again, when we run through Ezili, I'll show you why this is a pretty cool strategy. Heart of Vengeance, this is a self buff, gains 10% attack speed and 1% for every life lost, starting from the value of the upgrade, maxes out at 100%. So that's pretty cool. Now the next one, gains attack speed during the round as long as the Druid is attacking balloons. That is cool. So essentially ramping up your attack speed. This is when it gets interesting. Pop Lust. Boost attack speed and pierce for other druids in the radius can stack up to 5 times. So what basic strategy here? You drop in 5 druids, 5 Pop Lust druids. You build another one, a 6th one. You turn that into an Avatar of Wrath. And when with all of those buffs that I just read out, you have a dude that has got unlimited pierce and just does a bulk amount of damage. Avatar of Wrath. If you haven't done that strategy, jump into one of my videos, watch that. It is awesome. Alrighty, now let's move into the last part of the video. Thanks for staying in here. While you're here, while I'm here, like, subscribe, comment. I really appreciate it. Let's jump into the heroes. So the first one I want to talk about, it's not a huge buff, but it is worth noting. This is Gwendolin, or Gwen, up to you. We've got the cool Gwen skin here. I don't have it yet, but I will get it. Actually, just for you guys. Bang, unlocked. I've always wanted it. I had the money, so why not? All right, so we've got Gwen here. Now, Gwen's pretty cool. When you actually throw her first ability, actually then allows all of your other towers to hit lead balloons. Now that's pretty cool. She has some other pretty cool buffs. Here it is. Heat Up empowers affected monkeys to pop 1 extra layer and do +2 damage to lead balloons. Cool. But the last part of her ability, she then gives permanent lead popping power to every single tower. Now the use case for this is if you use Gwendolin with a lot of primary monkeys, because primary monkeys usually don't have lead popping power. You can drop her in. She's super cheap. Primary monkeys are super cheap. You drop in a village, you go a top path, get a middle path village. There's your lead popping power. For super cheap strategies, Gwendolin and primary monkeys works a treat. Moving on to our next hero, not one that I use all the time, but Striker Jones. Essentially, all he does, most of you guys know this, all bomb shooters and mortar monkeys throughout his whole kit just get buffed over and over and over. So if you're double HP Moabs, or you're going like really late game, Striker Jones, buffing those mortars, buffing the bomb shooters, super handy. Now the next one that's a little bit more in depth, because we've got two different strategies that we can use with Obyn. The first one, and the main one, he buffs the bejeebus out of druids. You build this guy next to a druid strat that we just ran through, and here they get +1 pierce, increase attack speed, increase popping power. This is where it gets interesting, and this is where you can use him in some other strategies. Drop him next to a super monkey, nature's clarity. All magic monkeys, not just druids, all magic monkeys in range get +5 range, +2 pierce, and druids, again, get an additional 1 pierce. So Obyn, if you were going for a super monkey strategy, wizard monkey strategy, he can buff all those towers. So remember that, not just druids. Geraldo, technically he's got a few things that buff other towers, but I'm not running through that today. Ezili. Ezili is actually really cool. I didn't want you to read that just yet. Now, Ezili does two things. So Ezili, I guess, okay, all right. Increase attack range, increase pierce, reanimated balloon. So remember when we were talking about the Prince of Darkness, and the Prince of Darkness buffing the rest of his necros? You can then throw in Ezili. She can then buff all of your other necros. Or technically she's not buffing your necros, she's actually buffing the necros balloons. I guess that still counts. We're gonna jump into that strategy because it is awesome. Now another strategy that is cool and it does work. Not as effective as Obyn with your druids, but remember how you can sacrifice, or every life lost gains your druids attack speed. Now, you're like, oh, what does Ezili got to do with that? She actually has her ability here, the Sacrifice Totem. A totem that gives camo detection, extra pierce, attack damage, attack speed, projectile speed to nearby monkeys. But here's the kicker, drains 10 lives. You can actually pair Ezili with druids, just if Obyn doesn't work for whatever reason, if it's a more difficult map and you can't just like stack a bunch of druids together, Ezili, cheaply, you can get a bunch of attack speed going. I mean, you start flaunting with danger a little bit by losing your lives, but it's a cool strategy with druids if you use Ezili. I'll throw that in there for you. Now, Pat, my big boy Pat, super simple. This is the only buff that you get from Pat, but don't discount it. I just did a video on this. It is awesome. All near monkeys pop 1 extra layer. He also gives everyone increased attack speed. So if you haven't used Pat, he's not a massive tower that I use all the time, but you can get a bunch of attack speed, a bunch of popping power from Pat. That's pretty cool. Next one is Admiral Brickell. Now, Admiral Brickell only works with water-based monkeys, but let's run through a strategy that I've thought of. So, naval tactics, greatly increase attack speed of Brickell and all nearby water-based monkeys for a short period of time. You keep running through her kit, she keeps buffing all water-based monkeys, yada yada yada. Naval tactics affect all water-based monkeys everywhere. So, remember what we ran through with our sub commander, boosting our attack speed. Buccaneer top path, boosting your attack speed and your pierce, your damage. You chuck in Brickell, so you have all 3 of them buffing all 3 of each other. You got your flagship carrier. You could drop an Alchemist on top of that guy. He's buffing that again. You have these 3, essentially those 3 towers with all your other water-based monkeys. You have huge amounts of DPS coming out. That's an awesome strategy I'm also going to throw into a video for you guys. And our last one, to finish up this absolutely absurdly long video about just tower buffs, is my new favorite tower, Etienne. Not massive, not much to talk about, but I love this guy. At level 8, Etienne provides every single tower on the map. Every tower on the map. UAV detection. I'm never gonna give this up. Never gonna let it down. Every tower on the map gets camo detection. You throw that in with someone like an ace, you could go top path Buccaneer with the middle path. So then he has camo detection as well as lead popping power. Tons of popping power. You throw an Etienne into that mix. Awesome amount of DPS. Highly recommending using his UAV buff. That, guys, should sum up our 30-minute buffing video. I enjoyed in making it for you. If you've enjoyed watching it, please leave a like, subscribe, drop a comment below if I've missed anything. If you want to discuss anything, get in there, start the conversation. It's Lev out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.